Brody walk up to the door, say where the hoes at. He ain't finna be on shit, I bet he know that. Shawty like
all day.
Is it
Before the lockdown even started,
okay.
I knew something weird was going on. And I wasn't the only one. It was my senior year. And I had a pretty easy schedule. It was spring, and I could see the end of high school on the horizon. But that day, the Tuesday, my concerns turned from the mundane to the insane. At first, I shrugged off the strange feelings I had. I thought the teachers were just having an off day. Or maybe it was me who was having the off day. I told myself to forget about it until lunch came around, and I went off campus to get a burger with my buddy Tom. "What's up with the teachers today?" Tom asked, as we sat in the fast food drive-thru, waiting to pay and get our food. I turned, surprised at Tom, who was usually about as observant as an octogenarian with failing eyesight. "You noticed that too?" I asked. "Yeah, man. They're acting really strange. Mr. Bemis was just staring at me during first period. His eyes were all wide and blank. It was creepy as hell. Then during second period, Miss Delia forgot how to spell the word algebra. She just..."
Imagine they're getting abducted.
Nah, now you got aliens in this motherfucker.
They getting abducted right now, bro. How do you spell algebra?
ALEGBRA or something like that.
Okay. Just making sure.
Just stood there at the board, her hand up, with the A and the L written. I swear, she stood there for a full minute before Courtney Miller asked her if she was all right. It was weird. Maybe they all got together and smoked a blunt this morning or something. I laughed at that, thinking about the teacher's hotbox in one of their minivans. But the laughter didn't last long. Tom was right. Something funny was going on. "Yeah, Mr. Liu walked super slowly up and down the aisles while we were taking a test today," I said. "He never does that. He always sits at his desk and reads or something while we take tests. And how slow he was walking? You'd have to try really hard to walk that slowly. Plus, I caught a whiff of him as he walked by one time. He stank. He was wearing cologne or something, but I could smell something nasty underneath it. You know what?" Tom said. "That made me remember something. You know how Miss Delia is always so prim and proper? She's a neat freak, right?" I nodded. I had Delia in one of my afternoon classes. "Well," Tom continued, "she looked kind of sloppy in class today. Her hair was frizzy, her makeup a little, I don't know, sloppy or something. It didn't connect until you said that about Mr. Liu stinking."
Honestly, if I'm them, I'm not going back to that school. Like, I'm going straight home, my nigga.
Our conversation stopped as I pulled up to the drive-thru window to complete the transaction. Then I drove to a nearby park where we sat on the hood of my Camry and ate, enjoying the spring day. We got back to school just in time for class and went our separate ways.
Jesus.
About 20 minutes into class, the lockdown started. I was in Mrs. Santiago's class when the alarm went off. Mrs. Santiago smiled, as if she'd been expecting it.
Oh, hell
Which
no.
made me think it was just a drill. Although every other time they'd done a drill, they'd told us beforehand. "All right, class," Mrs. Santiago said. "We're doing something a little different today. Half of you are going to stay here in the classroom like a normal lockdown drill. The other half will follow me to another location. It's something new. We're trying to see how it works." I looked around, furrowing my brow. I didn't see the logic in it. Why would half of us leave the classroom to go somewhere else if there was a threat out there?
Exactly.
A few other kids in the class seemed to share my concern, but most of them didn't care. They were simply willing to do what the teacher said. I waited for more information from Mrs. Santiago, but she didn't do anything for several minutes. After turning the lights off and locking the door, she just stood at the front of the classroom, hands clasped behind her back, looking at us with a small smile on her lips.
A soft smile, I ain't gonna lie. You
Just when I
me in a lockdown drill like that, but I just know something off.
Exactly, bro.
Especially since everybody been looking crazy already.
Exactly. I'm on my P's and Q's, bro.
God, nigga.
What? She's over there like, "Hey, kids." Really, like, what?
When I was about to ask her what was going on, she split the class in half down the middle, telling those of us on the left side to come with her, and those on the right to stay in the classroom. I stood and lined up with the other kids on the left, while those on the right got against the wall. We followed Mrs. Santiago out of the classroom, taking the right. I was 3 kids behind her, peering around them to watch her, thinking about the screen.
He lined it up perfectly,
Oh,
bro.
God,
He not too close and he not too far away.
God.
If anything happens, he out of it.
Ways teachers had been acting. She was in her 50s, with hair that had mostly gone from black to gray. She wore a floral print dress with frilly short sleeves. As we walked down the hall, I saw a drop of blood crawl down the back of her arm from under the sleeve. It stopped just above her elbow.
What?
A bad feeling seated itself in my stomach as we reached the doors to the gym. Mrs. Santiago stepped aside and opened one of them to usher us inside. It was dark inside the gym
So I'm not
because
going
all
in
the lights were off. As soon as I walked through the door, I stepped aside while the other kids walked past me into the darkness. I could hear some of them murmuring. They knew something was wrong. One of the students pulled out a phone and turned on the flashlight. The illumination revealed other people in the
Finna eat
gym.
that motherfucker.
Teachers, just standing there in the dark on either side of the doors,
Oh,
making a
excellent.
wide corridor in which the students now stood.
Hell no.
There must have been a dozen of them, and as the flashlight came on, they moved in on the students. Screams bounced around the gym as the teachers attacked the students with knives and cleavers from the school kitchen. The sickening sound of metal-piercing flesh and blood spilling to the glossy gym floor unleashed a deep fear inside me. Since I'd stepped aside to the wall when I'd entered the gym, I was still in the dark. I stumbled back toward the door, watching in abject horror as knives plunged into my fellow students.
That's crazy.
Clammy, cold hands grabbed my shoulders. I panicked, throwing an elbow behind me and connecting with what felt like a nose and mouth.
Hit it again.
The hands came off of me as I turned around, seeing Mrs. Santiago standing there staring at me, her mouth split open and her nose bleeding. I shoved past her in the doorway, trying to get away from the gym,
said, "Move."
but she grabbed my left arm with the right hand. At 18, I was much bigger and stronger than her.
Hell yeah.
I shoved her as hard as I could. Something ripped, and she fell back against the gym door. But her hand still gripped my left arm above the elbow. I scrambled, pulling at her severed arm, ripping it off of me and throwing it at her feet.
I know this nigga was shitting his pants.
Exactly.
Talking about something, I pulled it off and threw it to the ground.
Everything happening like that, bro. What?
Nigga, I know you're shitting your pants, bro.
No cap, bro.
Fuck no.
I ran, looking back over my shoulder as Mrs. Santiago stood there, seemingly unaware that she'd just had her arm removed, staring at me as I sprinted down the hallway. I ran for the nearest exit through the empty hallways, past dark classrooms. The lockdown alarm was still blaring, but I barely noticed it. The sound of my heart beating seemed louder than any alarm could ever be. I slowed as I passed Tom's classroom, clarity coming into my thoughts. I wanted to run out, but thinking of Tom and my other friends made me think of all the students that would be in danger if I just ran away.
Yeah, he
I
right.
approached Tom's classroom slowly, glancing through the slender window into the dark
Yeah,
room.
already.
I thought I had seen Tom's fifth period teacher, Mr. Pelham, in the gym. So when I didn't see anyone in the classroom, I banged on the door. Tom! I whispered loudly at the door between bangs. Tom, it's me, Nate, I said. Tom appeared out of the
Oh
darkness.
shit.
Nate, he said through the closed door. What are you doing? It's lockdown, man. Where's your teacher? I said. I don't know. He left like 5 minutes ago. Told us to stay put. Open the door. We've got to go, I said. The teachers, they're killing people. What? Tom said, smiling.
Why she's you can't even trust Tom at this point. Hell no.
Yeah, this is serious. I stepped back from the door and glanced both ways down the hall. I didn't see anyone. I am serious, I said. Everyone needs to leave. Come on. Tom reached for the door handle, but a voice from inside the classroom stopped him. I couldn't hear exactly what they said, but Tom's response gave me a clue. I know we're not supposed to open the door, Tom said, but this is Nate. He's no school shooter. Tom opened the door and let me inside. I closed it behind me and looked into the darkness at the students sitting against the wall. "We need to go," I told them. "Now. Something is seriously wrong." "We're supposed to stay here," one girl whose name I didn't know said.
You gotta see it from her perspective, though. They think it's a lockdown. They don't know what the teachers is really doing.
That is true.
I don't think all of them noticed, you know what I'm saying, what the teachers was doing.
That's facts.
Or how they was acting weird.
That is true. I can see that.
Yeah.
But if a nigga come in here distraught saying we need to go.
He coming out there with a little facial expression, so hey, I'm out.
Exactly. I was like, I believe you, my boy. I'm out of there too, bro.
"That's what the drills are all about, remember?" "I'm telling you," I said. "The drills didn't have this in mind. It's the teachers. I watched them kill some of my classmates. There's something wrong with them. Haven't you noticed anything strange today?" I could see in their eyes that many of the students had noticed, but none of them moved. "All right, fine," I said. "I'll go get help. Tom, you gonna stay here or come with me?" "I'm with you, man," Tom
Real
said.
nigga.
"Okay," I said to him.
I said,
Then I
fuck
turned to the other students. "Someone call 911 if you haven't already." "We have," someone said. "They have police on the way. Lock the door behind us," Tom said to the nearest student as we turned to the door. It was tempting to hunker down and wait for the cops to show up, but seeing what I had seen, there was no way I could do it. The teachers had keys to the classrooms after all. We'd be sitting ducks. I checked the hall before stepping out. Tom followed, shutting the door softly behind us. We booked it to the nearest exit and pushed on the metal bars to open the doors. They came open a few inches and stopped, the telltale rattle of chains coming from the outside. "They locked the doors," I said in a harsh whisper. "What the hell is going on here?" Tom said. I looked around. "Let's try the faculty area," I said, noticing that we were near the admin offices. "Maybe they left one of those unlocked." Tom nodded. We moved cautiously through the halls toward admin, listening hard and keeping our eyes peeled. We ducked through the doors denoting the faculty area and saw a flickering orange light coming from the teacher's lounge. The door was closed, but, like most of the doors in the school, it had a thin rectangular window off-center through which the flickering light shone. I crept up to the door with Tom behind me. Taking a deep breath, I looked through the window. I saw a figure in the middle of the room staring right at me. I pulled my head back down. Tom said, "There's someone in there," I said, then stopped. The image of the figure in the room took a moment to solidify in my mind. I stuck my head up again and looked through the window.
We doing a whole peek. Like, we don't do a slight peek? God dang.
The vice principal, a man named Ben Sheridan, was floating in the middle of the room, his legs and arms outstretched to make an X with his body. He was naked, and there was a short wooden spear jammed through his chest.
Oh, jeez.
The orange light was coming out of his eyes, nostrils, and wide open mouth, flickering as if from an inner fire. There were also red glowing words and symbols written on the floors and walls of the lounge, pulsating in time with the brighter light coming out of Sheridan's face. He floated just above a glowing circle on the floor, the edges of which were surrounded by strange symbols and words. I couldn't read any of the words because they were in another language, but the symbols looked like they'd been taken right out of a horror movie. "How is this happening?" Tom said, and I realized he was standing behind me, looking over my head through the window. He sounded on the verge of tears. "This isn't supposed to happen," he continued. "This isn't possible." "We need to get out of here," I said. "Now." We moved past the vice principal's office and the principal's office, and past the admin office to the doors used by the faculty. I pushed on one of the doors, my hope disappearing as it, too, only opened partially before it was stopped by exterior chains. "The principal's office," I said. "Maybe the window's open, or we can break one."
Same principle that
Tom
they
nodded,
just seen.
following along, wringing his hands. As soon as we got into the office, I could tell that the windows weren't designed to open. I started looking around for something heavy I could use to break one of the windows. I located a heavy teaching award on the desk and picked it up. It was the shape of an apple attached to a wooden base. It weighed maybe 10 pounds.
That should be strong.
I glanced down at the desk plotter, noticing that it was a calendar. I looked at yesterday's date, reading a note there. Faculty meeting, 5:30 p.m. Something fell together in my mind. I was about to tell Tom about it when he spoke. "Someone's coming," he said in a harsh whisper. We ducked behind the principal's desk as a figure moved through the hall outside the office. I heard the door to the office open, and I clutched the award in my sweaty hands, mentally preparing myself to use it. "Nate Oshman?" a woman's voice said. "Is that you?" I stood up quickly, holding the heavy award over my head. It was Christina Henry, a pretty 20-something art teacher I'd had my junior year. "We need to get out of here,"
Hit that bitch,
she said, holding up her hands. "I don't know what's happening with the other teachers, but they're killing students." "Yeah, no sh*." I said. Tom stood up, eyeing Christina nervously. She looked normal, and she sounded genuinely scared, but I wasn't about to let her near me. "Were you at the meeting yesterday?" I asked her, taking a shot in the dark. She looked at me with open curiosity. "The meeting? What are you talking about? Why is that important?"
Answer the
"Because
question.
I'm guessing that's the last time all the teachers were together in one room," I said. "Whatever happened to them, someone did it on purpose. You walked past the teacher's lounge. You must have seen it." "I was sick yesterday," Christina said, apparently seeing the logic in my thinking. "I missed it. Now, can we please get out of here? Whoever chained up the doors had to be able to get back in here somehow. I have a key to all the exterior doors. We can find the one and get out of here." I glanced at Tom, who looked at me with wide eyes, which he shifted down toward the desk. He was trying to tell me something. "Let me think," I said to Christina, then looked down at the desk. Tom leaned down and put his hand on top of a clipboard on the desk. I glanced at it, seeing it was a list of names, teachers' names. At the top of the sheet, it read,
Oh, shit.
"Faculty attendance."
She's lying.
And right next to Tom's index finger was the name Christina Henry.
See, that's why you don't explain. You don't explain what you're trying to do. You just say
Bad.
answer.
Bad.
And now she found out how to reword her sentence to nah, nigga.
Next to her name,
I told you kill that bitch.
I looked back up to see that she had a gun in her hand.
Oh, hell.
"I like you guys," she said, dropping the scared tone. "I really would have let you go. You're both respectful students. You're not disruptive. I really wish you would have believed me." She raised the gun. I threw the heavy award at her, ducking as I did so. She fired the gun, but missed as she dodged out of the way of the teacher's award. Tom dove over the desk and tackled Christina, slamming her
Had a
against the
gun in
wall.
her hand?
They both
This nigga's crazy. What the fuck?
fell in a tangle on the ground. Tom scrambled on top of her. She brought the gun up, but Tom caught her wrist with his left hand. With his right, he reached out and grabbed the award, then slammed it down on her face once. That was all it took.
Oh snap!
Seeing what he'd done, he clamped.
Hey, Tom got that killer instinct in him, bro.
Man,
He got that fight in him, bro.
Talk to him, Tom.
Poured off of her, as if she were hot to the touch. I stepped over to her and felt her pockets for the keys she spoke of. I found them and darted out of the office. "Where are you going?" Tom cried. "We need to stop this," I said over my shoulder.
Need to stop.
I froze when
out
I
of
looked
there.
at her.
Out of here.
I could see through the doors to the faculty
hell.
area that the hall was filled with teachers. They all had sharp implements in their hands, and they were all coated in blood. They stared at me blankly as they hurried down the hall. I ran toward them, stopping at the teacher's lounge. The doors to the faculty area were about 15 yards to my right. The teachers were 5 yards beyond that. I tried the knob to the teacher's lounge door, unsurprised to find it locked. Trying to calm my shaking hands, I fiddled with the keys, trying 2 of them before the doors opened to my right. I had time for 3 more out of the dozen on the key ring.
You know he had more
To my
time
left,
for him.
Tom came out of the principal's office.
That ain't about to start scrapping.
Man, he said, looking at the dead-eyed teachers bearing down on me. "Run, Nate!" he cried. I slid a key into the knob and turned it, amazed to find that it actually worked.
It's the same
I
principle.
found the key.
Yeah.
I stepped into the room and picked up a chair from the wall, just as the teachers crowded the doorway behind me. I stood outside the glowing circle on the ground and used the chair to shove the floating vice principal. I had to put all my strength into it, but it worked. As soon as he reached the opposite edge of the circle, he fell to the ground. Immediately, the glowing lights in his face disappeared, leaving only scorched black holes. The foreign words and symbols all over the floor, walls, and ceiling stopped glowing too. Behind me, I heard bodies falling to the floor. I turned around to see that all the teachers crowding the hallway were now sprawled out. I knew instinctively that they weren't unconscious. They were dead.
Oh.
They'd been dead all day.
Oh, shit.
At least now,
why they
they
stopped.
weren't trying to kill us. Behind us, outside the school, the sound of approaching sirens was like music to my ears.
They talking about he had zombies for teachers, basically.
Exactly. They were basically dead the whole time. I told you, I feel like they were abducted, bro. And they were.
Shit, by who, the devil?
Seems like.
Bad.
Who even did the ritual, though? Was it the principal?
I don't know. Look, I think it might be that one teacher, Christina.
Oh, the one, yeah, because she was more conscious about
she had
shit.
the keys and shit.
And had the gun. Everybody didn't have no gun.
Bad niggas had knives and shit.
It probably was her. Because she was like, I want to save you guys. Bessie's didn't want to save nobody.
Shit, she was the most conscious one. She wasn't acting all crazy.
Yeah, she know how to control her emotions to like make it seem real. It probably was her, bro.
Yeah.
That's crazy shit.
That was an interesting story. That can't lie.
Thanks. She pull out the Glock. Too many Glockies.
I'm dead as hell, bro. Hey, man. Hey, that was a cool little story, man. If you enjoyed it, like it, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, man. If you want to see more horror story reactions, man. You know what I'm saying? Turn on the post notification, you know what I'm saying? But we out.
Waiting too long now, I'm chasing my dreams. Hit those on off, then we putting to sleep. Cut for a button, a sip of codeine. Came from the mud, now I'm making a scene. Ice nigga down if he running his mouth, then we running his house, when we making them bleed. They come around when they looking for clouds, they don't know what it's about. I'm a ball like Kareem.